6:03 p.m. on Tuesday, December 10th. Welcome to the Budget Committee meeting. Thank you for joining us. Our first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Chris, would you do us the honor of leading us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So next is new business. I want to get in, I don't want to spend time on this, but I want to let everyone know just because some of us know and most of us don't know. I did not manage to get a meeting with Janet, but she has informed me, or she has submitted a letter of resignation. So later in the meeting, we'll come back to that and discuss that, but I want to share that information just once it's known, everyone should know about it. But what I want to do now is go ahead and handle the public safety sections of the budget, and then we'll come back and handle those other things. Yes?
We're seven? Oh, I'm sorry.
We have four people in the room right now. I have a quorum.
Yeah. I was thinking three, but.
No, thank you, guys. I wasn't sure on the new public safety budget section if you guys are doing it as together or if one of you, so I was gonna start with the police department, then do public safety, because then you guys can figure out who gets to do that, and then do all the fire stuff. Does that work for you guys? All right, so let's do police first. So I will make a motion to move the budget for the police department, which is 4210, in the select board recommended amount of $1,494,152. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded. Motion by Paul, seconded by Buzz, to move the the police department, section 4210. So, before we start asking questions, let me just turn it over to you, Chief Bean, and there's some things you would like to bring to our attention, either that we need to know about, or that you now would like to see some more changes since things change with time.
So the first couple are just all positions. A couple of them got increased higher because we hired two people this year that have had more experience than the people that left. So they were brought in at a higher rate than those that we had last year. So
I'm sorry, just to clarify, is this something that's happened recently and we need to talk about changing numbers, or you're just
No.
The reason these numbers are higher is because you brought people higher in on the scale because they
correct.
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
These we hired everybody months ago, so just for next year it'll be higher because of that.
Okay.
The crossing guard line got increased. That was for
126, yeah.
Yeah, that's just a salary adjustment for the raises. Then the PD overtime, which is the biggest thing, it's an increase of $10,000. That's something that we overspend every year with the salary increases last year. That $10,000 is going to be needed just to cover that. This year we've overspent it significantly. Some of that is because of having some open shifts. So some of that's been offset because we weren't working.
Salary line is underspent.
Yeah. But I do think even if when we have everybody, even if we don't lose anybody next year, the $80,000 is going to be spent. That's just in our time off that we're given, covering shifts for that stuff. It's covered there.
What's the difference between overtime and line 893 town events?
The town events are the special events like the parade, the fireworks, Old Home Day, anything that the town we come in for some sort of an event. Years ago, they wanted it separated to see how much we were actually spending on these events, like fireworks.
But that is additional overtime?
That's additional overtime, yeah. That is just spent on those events, which every year we're asked to do more and more things, so that's been an increase too. Like they've added like a national night out that they want officers at. So every year we get more and more requests to be at different things. So that's just solely events. The parade and the fireworks are what eat up a good amount of it.
And Halloween.
And Halloween, yes, yeah, Halloween is another huge one, yes. So the court and prosecution, that went up $2,858. The reason for that is we've had more arrests this year. That's for having the assistance from the Grafton County Attorney's Office.
I'm sorry, when you do that, if you could give us the 3-digit line number.
Oh, sorry.
I find it in the here.
143.
143, yeah.
Thank you. I was looking too low.
We get charged per case. We don't send them any big cases, but like our DWIs, domestics, stuff like that, we send to them. That are the more crucial cases for them to handle. So we actually will be paying next year for this year's case numbers. They do it they give you the number for the following year based on your numbers this year. So our numbers this current year increased, therefore next year we pay the additional fees. Next year if our numbers decrease, the following year that number will decrease. I don't see that number decreasing though. We seem to be into a pretty busy spell this year with all of our numbers increasing.
So this is not like an hourly rate? This is a
Per
lump
case.
sum fee that the
Yeah.
county sets and we pay it?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
We're able to monitor what cases though go. Like Chris Carter handles whatever he can handle, and then if it's a bigger case, then he says, all right, an actual attorney needs to handle this because the motions and stuff I'm not able to handle. But if it's like a regular op after, we handle that in-house so that we don't get hit with any of these fees.
Okay.
The holiday pay line, which is 144, that's a salary line. That's from all the salary lines being adjusted. It's for paying the officers because they don't get the actual holiday off. So that's the increase there. Certified special officers, line 190. That's our part-time officers. We've never had really part-time officers, so we've always decreased that line. We hired somebody last year who worked a couple of shifts this year for us instead of having to pay overtime for them. So he has a full-time job, so he's not working tons, but he's at least working some. So I brought that number back up to 1,500 just to cover a couple of shifts at what would be a lower rate than if we hired somebody at overtime for it. We've spent about $1,500 this year on the shifts that he's covered, so that's where I came up with that number. He's really only available on nights and weekends if his kids aren't playing sports, so it's kind of limited, but it's at least something cheaper. All the other ones have stayed the same. Line 350, the medical expenses. That line's been $200. I increased that to $500. The reason for it is Franklin Hospital is now sending us bills for if we go and get blood for a DWI. So far, they've only sent us one, but we sent more people there, so we're expecting to get more bills at some point. However, it's been months now and we haven't got one. So it's kind of when they just send them out, and They never charged us before, but now they said that they're gonna they charge us $176 every time we bring somebody for blood. So far this year, we brought 4 people for blood. We do, if it's alcohol related, we have an intox at the PD, so we can just run that and we don't need to go to the hospital. But if we think there's drugs related, the only way to get the drug results is by going to the hospital and getting blood drawn. So we're kind of forced to pay it if they charge us for it. So that's the only reason for the increase there.
Are you mandated to go to Franklin Hospital? or
So not just we called Plymouth to see, and they said, we just haven't brought anybody to Plymouth, but they said that they would charge us $2 for it now. It's something that they're doing because it's a pain in the neck when we get there with an arrest. So it's something all hospitals are going for.
Okay.
We just used Franklin because they're usually easier to deal with. So, but we did call around.
Go along.
We got feedback on the Zoom?
She not have a mic muted?
She's not, no, so. I'm muted.
Okay, thank you.
The Franklin dispatch line, they didn't give us a new number for this year originally, so I plugged in a number, just any number, which was the 72.3, and then it came down to 65. So that's why there's a difference in numbers there. That's line 395.
Right, but that's up just a little from the 62.3.
Yeah.
Okay.
My number 72.3 was just a number that I had to put in for the selectmen because they hadn't gotten me it in time.
Gotcha.
So that's why there's a decrease there. So that number is a good number with the decrease. Next couple lines were removed last year.
We'll get to them in the next section.
Yeah. The office supplies, which is line 620. Last year I increased that because of the move. So I've decreased it. I only decreased it 500 instead of the full 1,000 though, just because the cost of everything now is so much higher than it was a couple of years ago, that I didn't go with the full $1,000 decrease. It's only a $500 decrease because of that. Postage, I brought that down to $250 from $500. That's line 625. We mail far less stuff now with new technology. I think probably that line will be able to almost be getting rid of hopefully soon, but we still do mail some stuff out, but for the most part everything's done through email. So that's the decrease of the $250 for that. Tires, line 630. Last year I decreased that from 5,000 to 3,500. I kept that at 3,500 again this year. We've been doing a pretty good job with our tires in our maintenance, that we don't need to buy as much. We've also switched to an all-season tire instead of winter tires and summer tires. Goodyear's told us that their all-season's far better than what it used to be. So they recommended it. I called around to all PDs and just about everybody switched over to it. It's easier and it's less times you're swapping tires out throughout the year. PD gas, line 635. I put that up $3,000 because of the price of fuel increasing. This year we're gonna overexpend the $20,000 by probably $3,000. Hopefully the price goes down, but no idea if it will. So that's the increase of 3,000. Is it's about the number that we're
I
gonna.
understand. If either one of us could guarantee the
Yeah.
price of gas in 6 months, we'd make a ton of money and we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So I think our numbers are gonna be about 23,000 for this year in fuel. The custodial services was moved. Cruiser maintenance, I moved that from $9,600 to $11,000. Last year we spent $11,000. This year we're probably going to spend about that. The price to get stuff done is just so much more money. we've had a fuel pump go in a cruiser this year, and it was $3,000 because the fuel pump is put under the motor now, and they have to take everything apart. And by the time you take that apart, then they say, well, you might as well change your spark plugs because you're already here, and it's that time frame where you need to change your spark plugs. So it's a battle, and it's not something that a local place will do. We have to go to Ford because nobody wants to take it all apart to get to it. So we use New Hampton Auto, who treats us very well, gives us a better rate than what Ford does, but anything major like that, we have to go to Ford. We know we have a cruiser that the fuel pump's gonna go in next year. We were told a little while ago, but we don't have the money to pay for it right now. So we know next year it's leaking, and every 6 months we have to fill it full of coolant right now. So we know we have at least that coming. We do have a cruiser that has a warranty plan that was purchased years ago. At that time I thought it was a rip-off. I still think it's a rip-off because every time we bring it to Ford, they tell us that's not covered under the extended warranty. But that was the fuel pump that went in it, and miraculously fuel pumps aren't covered under that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of, personally, of
Yeah.
extended warranties either. so-
I wasn't a fan. I thought it was a dumb idea when we did it. The body worn cameras, it's the same price as last year. That's in a contract, we're in a 5-year contract with them. That 13.5 is for the cameras and for our tasers. We're kind of stuck with it. We did last year. We were able to renew our contract before it was up to get us the lower price. It was going to be $20,000 more, so we did negotiate it down $20,000, but we're stuck with 13.
I'm gonna ask you to stop just for a second. Christina, we talked about this before when the fire department bought radios and signed a multi-year contract. We put it in, and then you said, well, maybe it should be, because we can't really change this number. It's a middle year of a multi-year contract. Are we okay with leaving this here, or do we need to move it down to the?
Fire department.
I mean, no, I'm using fire department as an example, but now I'm saying now
The reason we
his.
did it with them was it was a lease. We talked about doing it with them because it was a lease, it's different. Contracts, we just do them in the budget.
Okay.
But lease is like a debt.
Excuse me, Chris, I just wanted to make sure of
Yeah.
an accounting thing, but
Yeah.
I
we're
think
good
that's
where we
why
are.
we left them in here, because it was just a regular contract.
Okay.
so.
Very good.
We did write in the contract that at any point the town chooses not to finance it, we just send them all the stuff back. I don't
Okay.
recommend that though,
No, no,
because we
no,
lose it all, but.
I don't think we're asking you to do that, but okay, gotcha. No,
But we
if that's
do
the
if
case,
it
then
was-
actually it's not an ironclad thing.
Yeah.
We
We
don't
made
want
sure-
to, but we do have the ability
Yeah, we
to.
made sure that they rewrote it saying that if the town does not fund it for a year, we just send them everything back.
Gotcha,
Yep.
okay.
The grant related expenses, line 891,
Mm-hmm.
that's down, because last year we bought the radar trailer, which was the huge expense, so
Right.
we're not doing that this year. We put in for 2 radar, for our cruisers, because they all need to be replaced, so we've been doing 2 a year. And 2 more radar speed signs, which are the ones that are mounted on the poles, which the goal is to put one on North Main Street, and then another road that we get a lot of complaints for people speeding. So we've been granted those grants. It's just the town financing it, which is the $10,000, and we get reimbursed 75% back after we purchase everything.
How long do they last?
I don't know, probably 10 years, I would say. I don't think anybody's had one of these signs long enough to.
Oh, I was thinking of the actual,
Oh, the radars itself?
Right.
Oh, the ones we
you
have.
replacing them, you seem to be replacing them on a regular basis.
Yeah, so we replaced them. When I started here, was the first ones we bought, which is 18 years ago, and we did the same thing then through this grant. We were buying 1 or 2 a year, every year, to replace them. So it's been about 18 years. We have to get them calibrated every year, and they've slowly been needing work done to them. And when you need to do work to them, it's like $800 to do it. So it makes no sense to replace an antenna when for $2,000 you can replace the whole entire thing. So we have one of them right now that the rear antenna is not working, so that'll be one that gets replaced. We opted not to fix it. Where the state pays for 75% of this, it was cheaper to buy a brand new one than to fix it. And they're 18 years old.
So
Answer your question?
Yep.
can I just add, so we haven't replaced them all, we're only doing a few.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Oh, okay.
Same as with the cruisers, you just rotate.
Yeah. So the town event line 893, that's an increase of $1,000. We've overexpended that over the years with salary increases and more things that we're asked to be at. That's the reason for the $1,000 increase. Last year we spent $7,900. This year we're gonna, by the end of the year, we're gonna spend pretty close to $8,000 again.
Okay.
And that's all I wanted
I think
to-
you've gone from the top to the bottom, so let me open it up to questions or comments from the audience, or not of the audience, I'm sorry, from our committee members. Walter, you want to say something?
What value do you get from those signs?
So, well, that depends. People that live in that area appreciate it because they complain that people are speeding nonstop. Honestly, a lot of value that we get from it is the one out on 104 was purchased too long ago that we can't get the data, but the ones we purchased this year, we can put a flash drive in and we can be told, we can set a date, so for a week we can be told 800 vehicles drove by here. Of those 800 vehicles, 10% of the vehicles went 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, 2% went 20 miles an hour over. So the new ones that we have, we're actually pulling the data. Like the trailer that we have does the same thing, and the select board have asked us to put it on roads that people have complained that people are speeding, and we've gotten surprising data off of it. And a lot of the data is actually that people aren't speeding like everybody thinks they are. So I think it does slow people down when they see it. Some people will speed up, try and get it to go faster. We do have them set to shut off at a certain speed though, so you can't get it to go 100 miles an hour going by it. But we can.
I can attest to that, I tried.
I was going to say it never occurred to me. It's okay.
But we can show that when we put it on your road, how many people are actually speeding. North Main Street was the biggest shocker for me. I actually thought a lot of people speed on North Main Street. It's been a road that we've always got complaints on, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was like 6% of the vehicles were actually more than 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. But we did have one car do 90 miles an hour during that time frame that showed that it was like 2 in the morning that somebody did 90 down North Main.
Isn't that statistic skewed though, because those things make you slow down?
Yeah.
So you're tracking something, but
Yeah.
very,
So when we did it on Lakeside, we can do it so that it tracks with nothing on the screen at all, just a blank screen. So we did that on Lakeside, and I did bring that up though, that somebody sees it and they're gonna automatically slow down. So you might not be getting great data. On Lakeside though, it's a small road, and I brought up to them that you just don't like a vehicle driving 25 miles an hour past your house. Like, people aren't doing probably 40 by here because the road's small, but they really thought people were doing 40 to 50. They sat there though and watched cars they thought were doing 40 and then looked at the radar trailer and saw what they were doing for a speed. So they did say, we agree, we just don't think 25 is a good speed limit for the road, because cars were doing 25 to 30 and they felt they were speeding. So it does slow them down, so it doesn't completely show you everything. But that is that is one value. Like I think that sign out on 104 does slow people down. My wife complains about it because people start slowing down way too soon. So you're in the 50 doing 40 far back, which I don't disagree with. But I think the next spot we would do one is probably out by Hannaford's in that area. A lot of complaints that cars coming into town are going too fast to try and slow them down.
Yeah, that makes sense. People coming through Alexandria at 50, they hit the town line, they don't
Yeah.
slow down to 30.
Yeah,
We've had a lot of complaints this year.
yeah.
Mostly North Main, Lakeside, Shore Drive, so radar trailers come in handy for that.
We got the 2 that we ordered last year, just not up yet because we had to go through a whole DOT process that we didn't know about. And now the snow's, we got it in November, we got approval in November. But one's gonna go on West Shore Road by Cummings Beach, and then one's gonna go on Lake Street by the Mill Stream parking lot. It actually is a speed limit there that goes down to 30 miles an hour, so we're putting one right there too.
Where does the speed limit actually drop to 35 when you come in south?
It's at the Big Catch.
At
So it
the
goes
big
from 40,
catch?
yeah, from 40 to 35 at the Big Catch. Yeah.
Okay. Buzz, any questions?
No.
Rob? Thank you for your time.
Well, before you, I muted her, I just want to make sure that she can unmute if she has questions.
Okay.
I need to remind you.
Sue, just want to check, any comments? Questions, concerns? I think you're muted. You need to unmute yourself in order for us to hear you.
That's what I was afraid of.
Okay?
I just asked her to unmute, but she may not.
Okay,
Okay.
There she
can you
goes.
hear me?
Yes, we
There you
can.
go.
Okay, yeah. All that time I thought it was unmuted. I could hear everything you guys were saying, but I didn't know if you could hear me.
At one point, we had some feedback, so I think we went to our screen to mute you just so we wouldn't get the squealing over the microphone.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm all set. I don't have any questions. Everything seems good to me.
I was gonna just take the opportunity to share with you that I look at this, and I mean, it's one of the big numbers, and I would love to cut this, but I think you and your department do good work, and I don't know what to cut without changing what you deliver to the town, so I'm not gonna make a motion to change anything, but, please
Thank you.
continue to help us to manage the money. I think you help us do a good job on that, so
Yeah.
we really hope and count on you to continue doing that.
Thank you.
I'd like to see the cruiser on my street. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank
so, not hearing any motions to amend, we now need to, I don't think I need to have a vote to close debate, but we need to have a vote on the bottom line for the budget. So, if someone disagrees with my procedures here, speak up, so let's go ahead and have we're gonna do a roll call vote, because Sue is on Zoom, and so we need to do roll call votes for all our votes. We're gonna vote on the bottom line budget for the police department. We did not make any changes, so this is the unamended amount. So we're voting on section 4210, the police department, in the original select board recommended amount of $1,494,152. Rob, yes?
The department amount is lower than the select board amount, so we're actually voting on the department amount because he lowered the Franklin PD dispatch line by, I think, $4,000 or $5,000.
I think you guys lowered it. I think mine's at the high number.
So it's offset for some reason.
Okay, maybe
Which
So I
one?
understand what you're,
the department amount is low.
It's changed in the, it should be in the select board, so you might want to just motion that to make it official.
but the department line on all the departments is lower because the select board increased the wage lines.
Correct.
So our experience is that all of the departments, the
Okay.
select board is higher.
So that should reflect that change in the
Let me look.
Franklin dispatch line.
But going back to
Yes, it
Franklin,
does. Sorry.
dispatch, which is line 395,
Bless
my
you.
document Wait, no.
The department is 72.
I'm in fire, I'm confused, hold on.
That's right.
No, it
PD
is-
Franklin dispatch is 72.3 in the department, and the select board is 65. So the reason your number is more is because of the wage scale
adjustments.
adjustment.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I have
Right.
more
Sorry.
question than.
Right. The original department line was 72,300, the select board line is 6,500, but then it goes up because we're gonna pay everyone more money. So I'm open to correction again, but I'm pretty sure that that is correct, that the bottom line number is correct.
It is.
$1,494,152. So we'll go all around the room one at a time. We'll start with myself. Paul, I say yes, aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 5 people in the meeting and we had 5 ayes. So I don't need to call the nays or the abstains. That passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who, you both want to sit there?
I'll take it, comfy.
You'll take it, thank you. So now we're gonna go to, public safety building.
4,200.
Yeah, I got it. Here's 4210. Here's 4220. I'll get there in a second, okay. My computer timed out, so I'm gonna do it off the paper. So I'll make a motion to move the budget for the public safety building, which is section 4200, in the select board recommended amount of $44,700. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded. So a motion by Paul, seconded by Buzz, to move 4200 public safety building in the amount of $44,700. Chief, anything in here that you want to bring to our attention?
Yeah, so I'm gonna skip past the first line in there.
Yep, okay.
The second line, 411, the heating oil propane. I feel pretty good about that number. So I think I had talked last year when we were creating what we think the 6-month budget should be, is that, you know, Farmington's Public Works Director was able to get us some really good numbers. I feel good that the heating systems are almost identical. Maybe our Radiant Renai is a little bit newer, better system. The water heater's a little bit different, probably a little bit more efficient. So, you know, the hope being we might probably underspend this a little bit, but the truth is I think we'll come in right about the same gallons of propane they use. The York heaters for the forced hot air systems are they're newer, but they're the same units that they've always been. They haven't really changed a lot. So that 12,500, I feel really good about our propane usage. Building maintenance, there's some notes in there, right? But at the end of the day, just to really cover it, there's an extensive fire extinguisher contract. They come in and inspect them every year. We inspect them monthly, but they inspect them every year. They hydro them when they need to be hydroed. If we have a usage, it's a cheaper cost to get it refilled, so on and so forth. So that's a part of that cost. We now have 5 heating units between the Radiant and the 4 air handlers that need to be serviced every year. That cost, we've gotten numbers from companies locally to do it, so we built it based on that. We now have a very large commercial sprinkler that needs to be tested every year. The backflow preventer needs to be tested as part of that, right? So there's a cost with that. Overhead doors, we've increased the number of overhead doors, so that contract goes up a little bit. Still have a pest plan. Obviously the building's nice and tight, and knock on wood so far. Interior wise, we haven't had any issues, but exterior, right, we keep them away from the building. We have a dumpster outside. It's a little bit different area than it used to be. So that's already paying dividends, moving the pest end contract or whomever the contractor might be next year to that, which isn't bad. It's like 65 or 75 bucks a month, something like that. And then there's it's a little over $1,000, but it's about $1,000 for Victor worked with the lawn maintenance company to say, okay, we did, a basic, let's seed it and get grass growing, but over the course of the next year between spring and fall, what can we do for treatments? And it's about $1,000 to kind of get rid of some of the crabgrass that grew into it and get that to thicken up nicely. So that's where that $8,800 is based on, and there's about $500 as kind of a miscellaneous, we break a door handle or a hinge gets sprung or something, we'll swap it out. That's where that number comes from. Materials and supplies is kind of new. Ultimately, it just makes sense with the setup that really your paper goods, toilet paper and paper towels, instead of PD having their stock and we have our stock, it sits in one spot in the men's locker room. Everybody can access it and just buy it out of one line and account for it that way. If you have any questions on custodial services, Chief Bean will need to answer those. But so to get,
Can I ask you what line you're on?
sorry,
Well, materials is
what was I
610.
saying? 610 is materials, so that's toilet paper, paper towels, and then
Okay.
640 custodial services. Chris would like to talk about if there's any questions. But I would like to go back
He was your
to
friend.
410 and electricity. So I had, said this to the board when we presented the budget. This is based on certain numbers that we could or think we should pay or whatever for electricity, and then taking the Farmington numbers. Taking the Farmington numbers, recognizing that, their kilowatt usage, right, should be similar. The building's 5% larger. The fire department is staffed a little bit more than Farmington, right? So there was a 5% factor put into that. And then doing the math, and it comes out to $15,000. I think where we benefit is not only did the electrical subcontractor do a really good job, Gruen did a really good job, the difference in really almost 7 years, 6 to 7 years of lighting fixtures is seismic, right? I guess
Okay.
to be strong about it. So I've talked to the electrical subcontractor because he's local multiple times. Like, Jeff, does this monthly bill make sense? Like, it's way lower than I've ever. It's almost lower than the house.
Wow.
And he's like, no, these like the lights in the bay, right? There's like 20 something lights out there. He said, if you leave these on all month long, it's going to cost you like 13 cents. Or $1.30. I always screw the decimal up. But either way, that's super cheap, right? And
Yeah.
the lights don't stay on all the time. They're on motion detectors, so at night, we don't even have, security lights on out there at night. The crew needs to go out into the bay, the door opens and it kicks the motion sensor. So that all said, we have still not really hit the bulk of the heating season. So I had initially, I called Christina earlier and I said, hey, I think we could go down to this, right? Which is a pretty low number that I think it'll be a lot closer to, and maybe even higher than we find it really needs to be. But I do think between whatever the town decides moving forward with electrical contracts and community power over the next year, and still not having gone through a heating season, I definitely think you can reduce that 15,000 by half. If you want to talk about reducing it lower, I can give you the pros and cons of those numbers, but I certainly think reducing that to 7,500 is not going to be an issue. We won't overspend it. And it'll still make sure that it's there if we find that the heating season costs us that much more electricity. But we also won't have raised $7,500 that we didn't need, so
Okay.
that's
so-
why I left that one.
So I would love to have that discussion. I think before we have that discussion, somebody needs to make a motion. So I'll make a motion to amend line 410 of section 4200, which is electricity for the public safety building, from the current amount of $15,000 to a new amount of $7,500. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. What I heard you say was that you're very confident that the 15,000 is generous and more than you need, and that even with the uncertainty with not having a lot of operating history,
Right.
that we now have enough data that we do know that that was too conservative.
Yeah.
And you said that if we squeeze you hard enough, you would agree to go lower. When I get into a new situation, I'd rather be conservative, which is why I'm happy with the motion for 70 to go to half. But I think that as a committee, we could talk. Do you want to squeeze harder? Do you want to go to even a lower number? I'm happy with the 7,500, but I'm open to other comments or suggestions if someone has a different point of view.
I was thinking just the opposite, that maybe we ought to be conservative and make it
Well,
No,
I heard him say
really-
75.
I heard him say 75 too, but just in case. How confident are you?
Well, he's not
very
betting his
confident.
life on it, but.
I'm very confident, yeah. I think 7,500 is more than enough. It leaves plenty of, I mean, I had come up with a different number that had some good buffer in it, and then talking to Christina today and some uncertainty over what rates might be, 3 months from now, 7,500 is plenty, based on what we've seen so far. So, if nothing else, it'll be the 3 or 4 months of heating season that we should see the big change, and we'll know it pretty early on. It'll be too late to do any further adjustments, but I think that's a good number, and it's in all likelihood next year we'll be looking at it and saying it needs to be a little bit lower, hopefully, right?
Okay, Walter, comment, anything you wanted to?
They're gonna keep the lights on
Yes, they're gonna
regardless.
continue to run the
So
building.
I think the 7,500 is good. Let's go with that. I mean,
Rob, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, I'd like to take as much as we can, but I think it'd be prudent just, to be conservative in this.
I'm the same thing.
Yeah.
What he's saying makes sense. Next year's number might be lower, but
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
do what we normally do. You want to be conservative. You want to make sure that you don't under budget and then have a problem at the end of the year. So, Sue, any comment? Anything you wanted to add?
No, I think, anywhere between 7 and 75, I think it's fine. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what you're heading for, correct?
that's what we're heading for. So,
Yeah.
all right, I think we're done discussing this. I think this should be a straightforward vote. So now we're going to vote on the motion. So if you vote yes, you're voting to reduce the budget for electricity from 15,000 to 7,500. If you vote no, you're voting to keep it unchanged at 15,000. So we're voting on the motion to amend line 410 of section 4200, which is electricity for the public safety building, to make it a new amount of $7,500. We'll go around the room in the opposite direction. Sue, can you go first?
Yes.
Aye.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, 5-0, that passes. Thank you.
That's all I have.
37.2.
Yep, that's, see, you say you're not a numbers guy, you got that.
Just trying to move the meeting along.
All right. So I think we've covered all the lines. Thank you for taking us through that. Is there any other questions or comments from committee members or motions to amend anything that we want to do before we have a final vote on the bottom line budget? Not hearing anything, we'll go ahead and move to have a vote on the bottom line budget. So now we're voting on the budget for section 4200, which is the public safety building. We have amended it. The new amended bottom line is $37,200. So we'll go around the room. We'll start with myself. I will say aye.
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 5-0, that passes. Thank you very much. And now, we're going to do something much more involved, which is the fire department budget. I will make a motion.
Oh, we didn't just talk about custodial.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Good luck with the ice tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
So I'll make a motion to move section 4220, which is the fire department, in the Select Board recommended amount of $1,584,186.
Second.
Seconded by Buzz. So a motion from Paul, seconded by Buzz, to move the fire department budget, which is section 4220, in the amount of $1,584,186. Let's do the same thing. What lines do you want to bring to our attention?
So I guess there's not a lot of specific lines to bring to your attention,
Okay.
but I had kind of just prepared a little bit of an overview of the budget for this year. And I apologize. On my internal stuff, had made some adjustments that I am going to ask for. And so the numbers may seem weird, but ultimately they're super close. So I just want to point out, obviously, right, Chief Bean talked about it, and everybody knows that the wage adjustments from last year played a huge role in the start of this year's budget. And so just to kind of put it in perspective, we went into wage adjustments plus, anything that happens in this year's budget with an increase of $136,225, right? So, and I know that's a huge number, and fortunately, we had some stuff coming off in the fire department this year, not only in building related costs, which then are obviously picked up on the other side of the budget that we just talked about, but the radios came off this year, the DFIP payments came off this year. Those are really the two big ones. So there's a total of roughly $52,000 in savings that I get to start with, which is nice. But I also know that, the last couple of years, and last year in particular, as we tried to get the wage adjustments through, we were super conservative in our operational lines, which is already a super small 17% of our budget. It's a lot of money, 17%, but it's small in comparison to the overall whole, right? Mm-hmm. And I knew that we just can't have another year of completely being level and being able to absorb all of those savings. But I think ultimately did a pretty decent job of it. So out of $52,000 in savings, which isn't savings, it just kind of, some of it moved and whatnot, there's about, the operational line increase this year is like $17,500. The four big places that shows up is billing, which I talk about every year. Billing's a function of the revenue that we collect. The more revenue that we collect, the more we pay out in billing. Doesn't change the rate, it's still 6.5%, but 6.5% of a bigger number becomes a bigger number. So that's about $2,250 that's up this year. Once again, we've seen good increases in our revenue collection, and we anticipate that to continue at least for next year, depending on some state legislation that hopefully we never have to talk about. Lakes region is up. This is the number that's not going to match. I have a new number for you that I'd like. It's the one ask for more money, but I have a number of decreases that I would also offer. But it's about $5,000. PPE is up $5,500. The structural firefighting gear and details are $3,500. So that's roughly $16,000. All four of those lines super vital to what we do, between the billing and the collecting of revenue and dispatch and the gear for fighting fire, and details being a big, as we've moved to that process, right? It's still a service that we're going to provide regardless, but the town gets to recoup some revenue on what's ultimately outside of the emergency services world, but we're here and suited to deal with it because we have ambulances and personnel and rescue equipment. The first one and the last one, billing, revenue, and details, are all affected positively by revenue, right? The increase in billing request expenses means that we're increasing that revenue that we're capturing and not having a tax for that amount. And details are basically self-funded, with the town seeing, roughly $20 for every hour of detail pay that gets sent out in revenue. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's more than what we put out, and so therefore it's positive. So really it leaves a net when you say, okay, salaries are already kind of in place, and this is what we're going to see for changes this year. We have those increases to deal with. It's about $1,200, which is just balance, right? Some savings here and some spending here, is really the kind of net effect on those last 36 operational lines. So that was my kind of high level. We started with, because of the salary adjustments, $136,000 increase. I've gotten that to roughly $102,000. Again, that doesn't look the same as your budget right now. And then probably that's a little bit lower because I worked on some other stuff today. So that's still a lot of money, but it keeps the service the way we've had it going for the last 20-something years, and manages the increases as much as we possibly can. So I guess that's the high level. The ask that I have, if that's fair, or would you like me to elaborate on certain lines
So,
first?
I'm not sure, I heard what you said,
Mhm.
and I think I followed along, but I'm not clear. You've got at least one thing you want to increase, you've got some other things that you're gonna decrease, you're saying some of the numbers have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go through, do you want to work with us, and do you want us to go through and amend a bunch of lines that match up? Or do you just need to propose, are you just requesting one or two changes to change the bottom line? Rob, go ahead.
I think if we were to let him go through the adjustments he wants to make, that might answer some questions that arise
Yep,
from us before he even has a chance to get to that, and then go
Yeah.
through that process of any other questions that any board members might have.
Yeah, it's 5 line adjustments.
Okay.
One of them's an increase of roughly $2,400. The rest of them are decreases of 3, 8, and then FICA Medicare changes, so $600 more.
okay, so you got 5 changes you are requesting that you'd like us to consider. 1 increase and 4 decreases.
Yep.
And the net effect is what?
Well, it's a decrease. We'll
Okay.
see what it looks like. I didn't actually put the numbers
Okay.
together totally.
Why
So
don't you go ahead and take us through
the first one's dispatch, so line 395. 395 I had populated with what we had for an initial budget number. Typically that goes down or stays the same. Probably everybody's seen some of the stuff on the sale of the state school property, which
Right.
is ultimately meaning that 911 and Lakes Region are going to end up with a new building, mostly funded by the state. There's probably a delta of about $500,000 worth of equipment and moving expenses that Lakes Region's going to have to come up with. So I sit on the executive committee. You can blame me for the increase. My position on that is that we currently, the capital improvements portion of that budget is $100,000, and that funds radio tower upgrades and radio and consoles and all that stuff. Was to increase that by $100,000, knowing that we're gonna have to have some seed money to fund that $500,000, and then we're going to have a payment on a short-term loan of about that number. So if we just start doing it now, we'll be ahead of the game. We're actively working and feel pretty good about some grant money that's out there, but that's where the increase comes from. So the new dispatch assessment for this year is $51,118, and I would ask that we increase line 395 to that number.
Okay. So I'll give you this a try. You can, and then I'll ask you if I got it right. I'll make a motion to amend line 395 of section 4220, which is the dispatch fee for the fire department, from the original amount of $48,735 to a new amount of $51,118.
Second.
Seconded by, so a motion from Paul, seconded by Rob, to increase line 395 in the fire department from $48,735 to a new number of $51,118. Motion is made and seconded. Discussion amongst, I think the chief has explained what's going on here. This is not like an hourly rate. This is an assessment from the regional association that provides services from us. And this is something that's proposed, or this is something that the
No,
association or you guys have
Yeah, the
have
board of
implemented?
directors has
That's been-
approved the 2025 budget, and that would
Okay.
be our assessment.
Well, my understanding on things like this is that you can't nickel and dime it. You either pay it and get the services, or you don't pay it, you don't get the services. If we propose to not pay it and not get the services, I think you're gonna jump across the table and throttle me, so.
More words.
We can open up our own dispatch center. No.
Yeah, no, yeah, no. So, this makes sense to me. Any other committee members have a question or comment?
Makes sense, but I mean, the taxes are getting unbearable.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know where you can make cuts,
Well,
but somehow we gotta pay it, and it's beginning to hurt.
I understand what you're saying, Walter. What I think is gonna happen is we can't make conditional votes. But I'm planning to vote for this, and it makes sense.
I'm gonna vote for this.
My understanding is now, when we finish this, then we're gonna have, I think, 4 more things that the chief is going to recommend, and they're gonna be decreases, so that whatever we're spending extra here, we're gonna take out of other lines.
The increase last year was bitter.
Yeah?
It tasted bitter. And then they add more to it this year. Hurts. There's gotta be some consideration. I don't think many of us have had that kind of increase in our pay.
So, I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure that I completely understand. I'm looking at the thing. So in '23, we budgeted 40,000.
I'll go right back to the start. We're gonna have it for the chief, a 7.03% increase after the increase last year, which was quite high. I'm not saying he's not earning it. I don't know. All I know is it's getting hard to pay. How does this compare with with fire departments around?
The net effect of the wage adjustments was the goal, and understanding that we were working within the structure that we had. So the goal was to be 1% over average, right? So middle of the road. If you got hired in the low, I don't remember which town was the low end department, maybe it was $25 an hour, the high end was maybe $28 an hour, and so that would put you at $26.50. So 1% would be $26.53. Now that's not the starting pay. I just use those numbers because it was easier math to do in my head, right? But the goal was 1%. For the most part, everything ended up at the middle of the road average based on how we could work it within our current scale without having to mess a whole bunch of stuff up. So if you get hired today in the town of Bristol as a brand new firefighter AEMT, you are making exactly in the middle between what you could make in Plymouth, Franklin, Guilford, Tilton Northfield, Bow, and somebody else, so I can't remember off the Belmont, right? So all the comparable fire departments that we've long used as comparable fire departments, similar staffing situations, similar run volumes, and so forth, and it's exactly in the middle of the road. So you're not gonna go here because you're gonna be the highest paid of your cohorts, but you're gonna come here because you're at least not gonna be the lowest paid of your cohorts.
Christina, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, so 3% of that 7 is just to get the rates for a full year that were approved in 2024. So the 4% is the actual change in rates going next year, or going into next year. The board approved a 3% step and a 1% wage scale adjustment. So 3 of that is just to pay you at the rates that were already approved. So he's not technically getting a 7% increase. He's only getting a 4% increase.
And that 1%, just, I don't know if you guys have heard this from Les already or not, but the board had to make a decision on that 1% to maintain the wage scale. So we don't end up in a position like we were in last year where we have to increase wages, 10, 15, 20% at a time, 10 years down the road from now. Walter, I hear what you're saying. What I will say in this particular instance, the fire department is a revenue earner. And to continue to be able to earn those revenues, we have to invest in that department. One of the particular investments that the board has looked at this year has been to keep, so when the new ambulance arrives, we'll be keeping a third ambulance. And that does two things. That allows us to better serve our community, number one, because we won't be relying as much on mutual aid ambulances to come in from out of town. But number two, it also means we're not giving up revenue to other towns that could be coming here or to one of our contract towns and taking transports. So we should see, I wouldn't expect a huge increase in revenue from that, but we should see some increase in revenue from that. And furthermore, I know, one of your, the things that is probably the most dear to your heart is the services that we provide seniors in this community. And one of the top or utmost things that seniors benefit from is having a solid EMS system. And in order to have a solid EMS system, we need to invest in it. And most important though, one of the most important things we need to invest in is our people. So we haven't had, I don't think, any turnover in the past year with the fire department full-time staff.
We have, it was for a life change move.
Yes,
and
when somebody moved to Hawaii. But we haven't had anyone leave to say, I'm gonna go down to Franklin because I'm gonna make $3 an hour more down there. So what does that do for you? It's more than just a warm body in the seat. It means we have people that are sticking around, learning the town and familiarizing themselves with not only with the town, but with the citizens of the town. So perfect example, they come to your house for an incident, and in April, and maybe
Was I glad to hear the cavalry come.
right. But maybe they get called back there in February. And, oh, that was Walter Waring's house. We were there back in April or whatever. So there's a value to having those people stick around, and you need to incentivize those people to stick around, which is what we've done. So my hope is that we continue to see a large offset in revenue, and we owe the chief a big thanks for that, and also Ingrid, who's his administrative assistant, that have brought revenue numbers from, in comparison to 5 years ago. I don't know if I could give an increase, but it's very large.
The thing that stuck in my craw is this town was incredibly generous when they gave the new fire station safety building. That was a big jump for everybody.
Yep.
We didn't get any jump. We did get some service. I'll agree the service was good. And I was happy to hear it coming. But, how long can we keep being so damn generous? There's gonna be none of the old people left if you push them out.
So I don't.
And the new people you're gonna bring in are gonna demand more service.
So I think I hate to kick the can down the road, but I'd like to think next year we're gonna be past all the big salary increases, okay? So things should level out next year. Now, that's not saying there's not another COVID or whatever it may be, or mass inflation. Who knows what's gonna happen in the world, but I think, I feel for you on what you're saying, but I think a lot of what you're feeling is because of societal events and not as much what's going on here. This is a factor in that big piece, this is the piece of the pie, My dollar doesn't go as far as it went 5 years ago either. You know, am I making more money? Sure I am, but my dollar doesn't go nearly as far because instead of spending $120 at the grocery store, I'm spending $220 at the grocery store. So this is one piece of it. And not that that doesn't need to be taken seriously, but we still need to, I mean, the focus of the board this year has been to make sure we're providing services to the people of the town, and that we're not cutting any, basically, our goal was to put forth a budget that we could say to you folks, here it is. If you cut anything, tell us what services you want to give up, because that's what this represents.
Okay, if I can interject a little bit here. Walter, if I'm gonna say something that I'm not understanding what you're saying, just chime right in and let me know. But I think what Walter's getting at is last year we were under the impression when all of those high increases were going to happen just to bring them up to the level, because we were so far below, we hadn't been giving the increases that we should have been giving. So they were to bring them up to the level. What it appears is that they're still raising higher, at least that's what I think Walter might be saying, that they're still getting the higher raises. At what point do we reach that level when we're already with everybody else in the state? I mean, we're constantly giving these high raises, to me, we have to justify it now to the town. Basically stating, we're giving these raises again. Why are we giving all these high raises again? When we just gave them last year with that understanding that we were bringing them up to the level that they should be. Now we're going still beyond that level. So is that what you're saying, Walter?
Yes, that's pretty much where.
Can I answer that, Paul?
Yes, please
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So part of what you're seeing here is, so the impact of the raises, last year was basically, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, the impact of the large increase to bring us up to where we needed to be was felt last year, and basically half of last year, and coming, what's that?
This year.
Excuse me, half of this year, and then also coming into next year. Because we're still, am I off base here?
No.
Yeah.
We didn't put them into effect till April of this year, so that gives you January, February, March, that
Right.
had to be budgeted at the correct rate.
Yeah, so basically we budgeted 6 months last year and then starting into this year. So to answer your question of, where does this end? Next year, what we should be seeing is strictly step increases and a cost of living adjustment to maintain the
Okay,
scale.
that's
What?
great, and that's what I thought we would be seeing this year. So I think that's what I was saying, Walter
You're
was
gonna
saying,
see.
was
Of
that
what?
we thought we were seeing that this year.
You're still going to see, it's still going to appear to be an increase each year, because we're only budgeting for April to December when we budget these increases for the current year.
Yeah, but we're
So
not
you're
now.
always,
We're
what?
not now, that's the adjustment that got made this year.
Yeah.
So next year, if you were to
It's
do the
only April
same,
to December.
sure, but I proved this on the spreadsheet, you'll only see the increase that is being offered by the board. So if it happens to be a step, it'll be 3%, if it's a step and a 1% COLA, it'll be 4%, if it's a step and a 5% COLA. Right, it'll be 8%. So you're exactly right. Moving forward, you'll only see the increases that are being budgeted, asked for that year. As opposed to, right, because we've always had to play this game where you're like,
Right.
well, there's merit raises over here, but they're also getting no, that 4% or 2% or whatever is what everybody's currently making. So the adjustments this year are still gonna look funky in the budget, but in ensuing years, you'll only see those changes. And I guess if I can, I would just throw in there, and Rob kind of highlighted it earlier, is, so I had said, right, the step one firefighter AMT that I hire is making, the average of what every other firefighter AMT in our comparable, our cohorts are making. If the board doesn't either do a COLA adjustment and or a step increase, which is truly what a raise is, right? A COLA is taking up for everything costs more, and a step says, now that person's been here a year, they know where these roads are, they know where members of the public live, whatever. Now they're a second year firefighter AMT. Well, the second year firefighter AMT in Guilford or Franklin or Plymouth got a 2% raise or a 4% raise, or maybe they got another 1 or 2% cost of living adjustment. And so now we're behind again. It's because of years of not maintaining. We have almost always had raises, and I will not deny that, but not maintaining them at the level of our competition, that's what got us that roughly 13% across the board that we were off last year and had to make up for.
Right.
So
Right.
I know me personally, I'd rather, I guess, I'll just put I'd rather see a few percent every year than to have another year like we had last year where it's 13%.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly, that's where it gets confusing for most people trying to figure out this half a year thing, but going into the next half year, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
It
So
will.
to get to once a year, yeah.
It'll clarify next year. I'm very
Yeah.
confident in that.
Mhm.
Regardless, the people in Bristol voted for those increases, and I did everything I could to try to slow it up. I'm gonna vote for it, but I've got a feeling you're gonna push it for some sort of
That's feeling,
revolution and really
it's
slow
over
it
7,
up.
but it feels cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think, unfortunately, we have to swallow the bitter pill 2 years in a row, you know? And I think, I truly believe that next year, and that's my goal, is for that to level out next year.
Sorry, it's blowing freezing cold air.
Yeah, you're over by the duct.
Yeah, I'm chilling over here.
Whoa.
Alright. So,
When
I'm sorry, I think that was a good conversation, but it was a little
Way
off
off
track. We can go back to having a general discussion about the budget for the fire department, but I'd like to wrap up this motion on line 395 and then go back to more general. Is that okay with everybody? So
Sure.
before I call a vote, I'll just check. Is there anyone that wants to speak up and talk about the issue or try to convince other board members to vote in a certain way on the motion to amend line 395, which is the dispatch fee? Okay, so not hearing that, let's go ahead and vote on the motion. So if you're voting yes, if you vote yes, you're voting to increase the amount from $48,735 to $51,118. If you vote no, you're voting to keep it at the $48,000. So we're voting on a motion to amend line 395 of section 4220, which is I'm gonna call it the dispatch fee, I don't think that's what the line exactly says, for the fire department, to a new amount of $51,118. I think it's my turn to go first, so I will vote yes.
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 Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
we have 5 yeses. I don't need to do noes and abstain. So that amendment has been approved, which was requested by the department head, has been approved by the budget committee. Do you guys want to now move on to the chief's next requested change, or do you want to go back to having a general discussion?
Let's go see what it looks like.
Can you do the second one, please?
Yeah.
Or
So-
can you explain it so that one of us can make a motion?
Yep. This request is to decrease line 422812, which is EMS tools and equipment, to decrease it by $3,000 to $7,500.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 422812?
Yes,
So-
812.
So let me give this a try. I'm making a motion to amend,
Oh, I see it.
to amend line 812 of section 4220, which is tools and equipment for the EMS function
Sure.
in the fire department, from the current amount of $10,500 to a new amount of $7,500.
Second.
So motion by Paul, seconded by Rob, to amend line 812 from 10,500 to 7,500. So,
So this is,
go ahead.
this was already a decrease, right? We had been paying for the monitors out of this budget. Typically, this budget's a lot lower number, I say typically 5 years ago, this was a lot lower number, which was never really satisfactory to keep up on certain equipment purchases. Part of the keeping it at 10,500 was keeping A1, right? So in order to keep an ambulance, you can't just have an ambulance that sits there and if you need it because one ambulance is broken down, you move a bunch of equipment. You have to have it fully equipped so that it can be licensed and ready all the time. It's not a big increase. Most of the purchasing we were able to do this year. So that $3,000, we were able to take care of that purchasing out of this year's budget. I don't need it next year, and it more than compensates for what we did for an increase just a second ago. So that's really it. The 7,500 is what I need in 2025, and so I can ask for a decrease.
So what I'm hearing you say is this is really not painful. We're not giving up any equipment. You managed to buy, you've managed to buy it against the 24 budget, so we don't need to put money in the 25 budget.
Between figuring everything out the right way and taking care of it already this year, we don't have to budget that money next year.
Okay. Committee members, anyone have a question or comment? Not hearing any, I'm going to call the vote on the motion to amend. So if you vote yes, you're voting to reduce the budget from 10,500 to 7,500. If you vote no, you're voting to keep it at 10,500. So we're voting on a motion to amend line 812 of section 4220, which is tools and equipment for EMS in the fire department budget. Sue, it's your turn to go first.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, passes 5-0. Next.
All right, so the next one is line 192, part-time shift coverage. So this line does what it says. Any part-timers that work shifts or the part-time specific shifts that we have that are largely around the weekend so that we can ensure we get 2 ambulances out during the daytime at a minimum. That's what this covers. It covers a few other things, kind of like the question that was asked earlier, like, for our 4th of July detail comes out of this because it's just hourly rate and not detail pay, right? Because it's a civic town event. Parades we don't get paid for. Well, that's really it. So, and then maybe a special project, as over the years, Rob's maintained the fire alarm system that we don't have anymore, so those hours would get paid out of part-time coverage, so on and so forth. We obviously built this budget in September. So since then, we've had conversations, and not to get into the big soup and nuts of what EMS contracts may look like this next year and warrant articles, but I feel pretty good about that moving forward, plus some balance of the shifts that we actually cover. So 192, I would like to ask that you decrease that by $8,000 to $51,746.
Sorry, can you repeat that one?
I'll do it because I'm going to make a motion. I'm making a motion to amend line 192 of section 4220, which is part-time shift coverage for the fire department, from the current value amount of $59,746 to a new amount of $51,746.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Rod. I think we've already heard the explanation from the chief. I don't have any questions. Does anyone else have questions or comments that they would like to share with the committee?
I would, just real quick,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
So because I know all of you do this, right, is as you're getting to the final spot, you're gonna say, okay, well, what did we spend this year? So that number that we spent this year is gonna be higher. Like we just talked about, we did have one person leave, but we luckily had a part-timer that can fill those shifts. So, you're gonna look at it and say, well, we reduced it to 51, but they spent 57-ish, might be where we end up at the end of the year. It's fine. Hopefully that position will be filled relatively quickly and all that'll balance out. But I just wanted to bring that up. It's less than what we'll spend this year, but there's a reason for that.
I appreciate that, because our papers here say that for this year, we're budgeted at 45, and the spending year-to-date is about 46, so it doesn't
Right.
show that. But I don't know all the details. There's,
You'll notice 118's way under expended, so that's where it is, right? That full-timer left, and we've
Okay.
been paying part-time wages
but
in
the
the
comment I
interim.
was gonna make, and Rob, you know more about this than I do, but I don't know all the details. I know there's other things going on with the fire department. It's not gonna get handled in the budget. It's gonna be a separate warrant article, so there's other things happening here. What I kinda heard you say was that proposed change affects some of this and helps justify it. So I'm not asking
It
you
does,
to go
yeah.
through all of that detail. I
It
just wanted the rest
decreases
of
a
it-
part-time
I just want the
shift.
rest of the committee to understand that.
Yep.
Okay. I think that, I'm not hearing any more comments on this motion, so we'll vote on this motion. We're amending line 192 of section 4220, excuse me, which is the part-time shift coverage for the fire department from the current amount of $59,746 to a new amount of $51,746. So you vote yes, you're voting to change it to the new lower number. You don't know, you're looking to keep, you're voting to keep it at the original number.
You said 746, correct? I thought you said 720.
I don't know what I said, but you said the correct number. It's currently 59,746, and the new
Yeah.
number is 51,746.
You got it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. I think I'm losing track. I'll go first. I'll say yes.
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 5-0, that passes. Thank you. 3 down, 2 to go, right?
Yeah, so the other two are they're decreases. They're just a little smaller. They're just the net effect of decreasing that $8,000, which would be line 220, which is FICA, to decrease that to a total of $8,678.
Okay, could you say the number again? 8,000?
678.
Make a motion to decrease 42-220 to $8,678.
I'll
Second?
second.
Okay, motion by Rob, seconded by Sue, to amend line 220 of Department 4220 from the current amount of $91.50 to the new amount of $86.78. Comments, questions? Everyone ready to vote? Let's go ahead and vote. Sue, could you start us off?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, passes 5-0.
And then line 225, Medicare, that's a really small percentage, so it's not a big number. But line 225, to decrease that to $14,634.
Okay, so I'm making a motion to amend line 225 of section 4220, which is Medicare for the fire department, from the current amount of $14,750 to a new amount of $14,634.
Second.
Seconded, motion by Paul, seconded by Rob. Let's keep things moving. Any questions or not hearing any, we'll go ahead and vote. It's my turn to start. So again, yes vote, you're looking to change it to a slightly smaller number. No vote, you're looking to keep it at the original number. To amend line 225 of section 4220. I vote yes.
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 5-0, we're done. Good. Oh, yeah, I'm doing it here. Thank you. I'll take
I
it.
want to check.
So that's you had said you had 5 and that's 5, so that's all
That's
that
fine.
you had for us for potential changes, right?
Yes. And I'm happy to answer any other questions on lines.
Okay.
But net effect of 17 grand in the operating, and we just reduced it, almost 10,000. So just to the point, that operations area kind of stays as close to level funded as it can be to still provide the service that we've provided for the last 20 some odd years. So
All right. Before I call a vote on the bottom line amended number for the budget. Does anyone else have questions for the chief? Or comments to the rest of the committee? Or suggested motions to make further changes to the budget? Okay. Maybe I should just, I don't believe your number, Buzz, I don't know. Not hearing any other comments or questions, I'm going to move that we're going to vote on the bottom line of the budget now. So, we're voting on,
Okay. Chief, did you calculate the new bottom line?
I didn't.
I
I
did.
got everything else,
Okay, because
but
we were done it, but we
Christine,
need
do you
to
get
check.
$1,575,057?
No,
Okay, what do you have?
I have 1,574,957.
Okay, you're off by 100 from the number Buzz
Let me
gave
go
you.
back, let me go back and just double check these numbers again.
So,
My Mac, I couldn't get my phone out to do my calculator.
no, I think you only subtracted 16, it's 116, so I think Christina's number's right.
Oh, it's 116.
Yeah, it's 116.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're voting on the bottom line budget for the fire department, which is section 4220. We've made amendments, so the new bottom line number is $1,574,957. Somebody thinks that I've made a math error, please speak up. Okay,
All I can say is it's a small concession.
it is a,
A very small concession when you consider
right,
1.5 million. It's a,
and we just cut it by about
we gotta have the
$10,000.
fire department, we gotta have it.
Right,
And the townspeople are gonna vote for it anyhow, so I saw that last year, so.
all right.
Well, Walter, did you see the, I don't know where it is, but the revenue that's projected to be generated by the fire department this year, it's almost a third of that number.
Is that here?
Yeah, it's in line 330.
You're looking at the revenue report?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're projecting $550,000 of revenue in 2025, so fire department is a revenue source, so I think we should support it.
that is just billing. There's the other $230,000 that we receive from the contract towns too, so, which is all will change this year, hopefully.
Yeah, so basically half of the budget is funded by revenue.
Pretty good deal.
All right, not hearing, well, no, we've stopped discussion, we've stopped, and we're voting on the bottom line budget, and the number that we have is $1,574,957. I'll start. Paul says yes, aye.
Yes,
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, yes.
So we have 5 yeses, and we only have 5 people, so I don't need to do the noes and the abstains. The amended, budget as amended is approved. You can get your piece of the paper back. Just write that down, hold on a second. Yeah, 1,574. Thank you. All right, so we are ready to move on to the next section, which is forestry, which is a 0 number. Do we need to actually approve this?
The department's been eliminated.
The department, yes. So they're in the budget, so I guess we have to approve it, but this should be very quick because we should, We should be quick to do a zero number.
Right, we should be able to remove it next year, hopefully.
All right, I'll make a motion to move the bottom line budget for the forestry department, which is number 4230, in the select board recommended amount of 0.
Second.
Seconded, so motion by Paul, seconded by Buzz. I'm assuming with a 0 number, speak up quickly, there should be no discussion?
I'd like to see it $1.
No.
I make a motion that forestry be moved to $1.
Okay,
Can I just make a comment, Paul?
please go ahead.
I don't think you have to in this instance, Walter, because we moved everything into the fire department budget, so that budget can pay for it. If anything comes up, it would be paid for by the fire department budget.
So we're never gonna see a forestry,
It's
that's
in,
not-
the truck is moved into fire department, correct, Ben?
There is no truck.
There is no truck. Sorry, we moved money last year into the fire department budget. This is just moving the rest of it into the fire department budget, so.
We'd heard in the past, when Rob was a member of our committee, that he has been advocating, and I know as a select board member you have been, so you got it down to 0, and now next year, hopefully it'll not even be in the budget, but
It
we'll
doesn't,
see.
so what you need to understand is what was covered by these expenses, which is going back to, you know, I think the most this budget was ever at was probably $3,000 or $4,000. Those expenses are tools and equipment that we still use and we still purchase. They're just purchased under the fire department line, because that's who provides the service. There's no, the issue I always had with the forestry department was, it was as if we had a separate department that was providing a separate service, but the department providing the service is the fire department. So we're not saying we don't have forest fires anymore, we don't need the money. We're just saying that the fire department takes care of it, so there's no need to have a separate budget. And we made sure that if any grant funding was received, that we could receive that under the fire department budget. And so,
I like zeros.
yep.
I don't care to cut anything to 0, but I like the 0.
I hear what you're saying, but if
The
our
one-
experts are saying 0 is a good number, I'm gonna defer to our experts.
The one makes sense when you have to have a budget line to account for something because the state's rules or the Fed's rules or something like that. What we're able to confirm over the last few years as we've looked at this is we can still accept it under the fire department, under our grant section, right? So we may still go and say, let's try to get 3,500 or something worth of tools and equipment from the state program. It's all, right, free money, comes from somewhere.
Comes from my other pocket.
But
It's coming
the
out of
point
his
is that we can still do that. It would just go, you would see it accounted for under the fire department budget, and there's a place for it, right? It's not to skip too far ahead, but it's why there's $1 down in emergency management in the trailer line, because that's a potential federal grant. We've got to account for that in a different way. So the forestry budget can go away, and quite honestly, this system, it doesn't even really break it out. It's part of it. We could still report it like we're going to do with vehicles and say, well, what did you spend? And we'd still have a number for it somewhere. It just wouldn't clog up the rest of the budget. Or be another line that you've got to keep open and monitor and all that good stuff, so.
So you're okay with drawing your proposed motion, right?
I'll withdraw it.
Okay. Not any other comments, let's go ahead and vote. So we're voting on the bottom line budget for section 4230, which is forestry, in the unamended amount of $0. Sue, could you start us off?
Oh, yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, passes 5-0. And now we will do the emergency management section of the budget, which is number 4290. So I'm making a motion to move the bottom line of section 4290 emergency management in the amount of $1,002. Second.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Buzz, for emergency management in the amount of $1,002. Anything you want to bring to our attention, Chief?
Yeah, I just haven't gotten around. I noticed it as we were doing year-end stuff. So the training line isn't at 0.
Yeah,
Only
it just
because
hasn't-
there was a training that was put under the department training that needs to get reassigned to like $600 or $700, something like that. So there is an expense out of that $1,000 that we're again asking for, just so we know.
Okay.
But the rest of it, again, this section, right, if we get a grant for whether it's emergency management equipment, a program update, something, we've got to have a line to account for that.
Which is why you've got the two.
Vehicle
$1
maintenance would
lines.
only be a federal grant that we'd go after, so we've got to have a line, so that's why those two are at $1 a piece. We don't typically, kind of actively pursuing, but if something pops up, we'll take advantage of it.
Could start raining money again, we'll get our buckets out.
Yeah, it may be a little bit before that happens, I think. I hope.
All right, any other comments or questions or motions to amend? Not hearing any more other comments. We'll vote on the bottom line for the section 4290, which is emergency management, in the unamended amount of $1,002. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
5-0, that passes. Thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening, Chief. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Safe travel
Yeah,
home.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Chief Bean did text me, said watch parking lot, walking out before I forget to mention that at the end of the meeting. So,
Okay, thank you.
I'll throw down some salt before we all leave.
So I'll try to keep moving this along. In my time as chair, I think this is the first time I've had to deal with this. So if somebody thinks that the procedures and what I'm doing don't make sense, please speak up. But I want to bring up the fact that Janet Kavanaugh has submitted a letter of resignation. My understanding is that, or the way I think about it is that I now need to share that with the committee. I'm gonna make a motion to accept her letter of resignation, and we're gonna all vote on it. I don't know what happens if the majority of us vote no. We can't force her to do something, but I think we do have to vote to accept her resignation. And then, once we get that, I'd like to spend a quick minute just talking about what people think makes sense for next steps. So,
She did submit a letter.
she submitted a letter. She said, I resign she sent me a letter Friday night, which would have been December 6th, I believe, saying, I'm resigning from the budget committee effective December 7th. So, okay, again, my understanding of the way these things work is I don't just go into a discussion, I need to make a motion. So I'll make a motion to accept the resignation letter from Janet Kavanaugh.
I'll second it.
So motion from Paul, seconded by Walter. Now I'll talk to my motion. So, go ahead.
I would caution you all about talking about this in any detail.
I agree, I'm not going into any personnel matter.
I would, yeah, that's all I'll say. My opinion is, a member of the committee resigned, we vote to accept the resignation, it doesn't matter if we accept it or not. And I would probably leave it at that. I think you should, just in this, again, this is just my opinion, is to stick to procedurally, what are we gonna do now that we're a member down? And no discussion about any one person in particular, or...
Can I put words in your mouth? Sure. I accept Ralph's motion to stop discussion, to end discussion. Did I get it right?
Yes. Just my opinion, again.
Seconded by Paul.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna stop discussion. All right, so the motion is to accept Janet's resignation letter. I think this is a formality, but I think it's a T we need to cross, so I'll say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Okay. So I think we're at, the bigger question now is what do we do? So we're basically halfway through the budget cycle. So we've got a deadline coming up for the Bristol Buzz. That would be our next opportunity. Even if we get so my thought was to put a posting out, and then I got thinking about it, and I'm like, we've got to meet, our next meeting is next week, which is December 17th, and then the meeting after that, I believe, is January 14th.
Correct.
So I'm not sure that we've got time to get to solicit interest, screen applications, and appoint someone and expect them to have a meaningful contribution to what we're doing. But, so I don't really want to spend a lot of time on this, but I kind of like to open it up because it also starts us on recruiting for people for next year's election, in my mind.
When does her term end?
I believe she is in the, I should know
I thought
this.
she just got this year.
She did.
Yeah,
She did, she's in the first year of a 3-year term.
She,
Okay, so if
This
you
year,
appoint
yeah.
someone this year, do they,
I think they still have to go on the ballot.
They serve to the next election.
I believe they still have to go on the ballot, but I just
Yes.
wanna,
Correct, they do. That's how I got on the committee, that's exactly right.
so you were appointed and
I was
then you had to
appointed,
run.
I was appointed to the second year of a 3-year term, I served to the next election, and then I filed to run for the third year of that 3-year term.
Gotcha,
And
okay.
then the next year, I ran for a 3-year term.
That's what I thought, I just wanted to make sure I was.
Right, so we're not appointing someone for an extended period. At most, we're appointing someone to serve until the public meeting in February, because we don't
Yeah,
do
by the
work.
time they even get on, they're gonna go to the public hearing and they're gonna sit at the table at town meeting.
Correct.
And you're gonna bring in somebody that is not in tune with the process as it's gone along for the past few months, that you've all put your time in.
So my question, or I guess my question, I'm looking for people's opinion. Is there enough benefit in starting the recruiting now that we're basically recruiting people to be on next year's ballot? Or it's not worth really the effort because we're not gonna be able to appoint someone in time to make a meaningful contribution? Do you think we should, I'm not asking for a vote, I'm just asking for comments.
It might make disadvantage if there's someone with an interest, it gives us a chance to see them. It gives the town the chance to see their interest before the election. So if the opportunity arose, I certainly would support it.
Okay.
If
And
the opportunity.
just to clarify, Rob, when the opening, now that we have an opening on the budget committee, it's the budget committee's responsibility to appoint, so you don't have to do anything as the select board, so that's why it's really a decision of the people in this room.
Right, and that's really like, I've said my 2 cents, but if you folks feel.
You're in
that
this
it will-
room, so we want your opinion.
Well, if you folks feel it will benefit you to appoint someone, and, Walter brings up a fair point. Budget committee's always been tough, I mean, especially, you think it's tough now keeping members, you should have been on it when they were 13, with
Yeah.
Walter and I. And to keep people interested, and that's why we voted it down to 13, and now it's just as difficult itself, and that's a trend that's gonna continue, as the spirit of volunteerism in this day and age is not what it was 20, 30, 50 years ago. People's lives are a lot more on the go and a lot more busy and people don't have the time to put into sitting here and,
Guys?
Well, that was the point that I want to make. I think that you should list it as soon as possible because it may take, maybe you won't even have anybody by the town meeting. But I would get at it
not
sooner.
gonna hurt you. It's not gonna
Maybe you
hurt
could wait
most.
till January because the holidays, but
I think, so what I think makes sense is, I'll go ahead as chair, I think this gets dumped on me, or I accept it, I guess. We'll put out a note, we'll put out some publicity, we'll put it on the webpage, you'll get a notice in the Bristol Buzz, we'll do those types of things. We're not gonna turn it around in 7 days, that's our next meeting. So maybe we say we give people to the end of the year, then that gives us early January to comb through whatever applications. we can even tell people, if you're interested, you can come to the December 17th meeting and sit in the chair and see what's going on and see if you're interested. But we'll go ahead and publicize it. But we
Certainly
won't
doesn't hurt
rush.
to garner, at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to garner interest, and if you don't appoint somebody, you don't appoint somebody.
So does that sound like a reasonable plan?
That's reasonable, I
Yep.
like it.
Okay.
Ideally, wouldn't it be for 2 years? Because I believe this was the first year of her next term. So
So,
I believe that she
Sue,
was a 3-year term.
Sue, the problem is that the rules say that we appoint someone to serve to the next election.
Yes.
So if we appoint someone, they only serve through the end of this budget cycle, and then they would have to run. So in addition to the 3-year terms, which Walter and I are finishing now, that'll be on the ballot, there'll also be a third position for a 2-year term to finish Janet's
Yes, yes.
position term. Okay?
Yeah. Yep, I got it, yeah.
All right. I think that's it for new business. Let's move on to meeting minutes. So, next order of business is to approve the minutes of our most recent meeting, which was Tuesday, November 26th. The minutes have been distributed, and does anyone have any comments or corrections?
I've just got 2
Okay?
minor things.
Yeah.
On the second page, under 4411 land use,
Yeah.
in the third line down,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a typo, I think.
Okay.
It says, discuss line number 140, overtime to grease 2, and then it says $2A1, just strike the A.
So try to strike out the A, okay, gotcha.
And then on the next page, under 4611, Conservation Commission,
Mm-hmm.
a little more than halfway down, the line begins, committee sponsorship by residents of Bristol. It is not clear if the scholarship will be need-based. Need-based is being used as an adjective. It should have a hyphen in the middle, as it does in the next line.
Okay.
Just, I
Okay.
can't help it, but that's it. Very good job by Shannon.
All right. Anyone else have any thing that they would like? And I appreciate, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, based on that one, the 46 Conservation Commission, she was supposed to get back with us to find out that answer. Did that come back?
Yeah, I was gonna cover that in correspondence.
Oh, okay, all right, good. I just thought of it. Good.
Okay, so what I was gonna say was I'm fine with this. I just wanna make the comment that we count on Buzz to do proofreading and spell checking and grammar corrections and things like that. But in the past, we've also had some comments that the level of detail has been questioned. So if there's something that we talked about that you don't see in here that you think should be in here, please speak up, because now would be an easy time to address that issue. Not hearing any of that, we'll go ahead and vote on approving the minutes of the November 26th meeting as amended. Did I make a motion? I did at the beginning, right? I'm sure I did. So we're voting on the motion to approve the minutes now as amended. I will say yes, aye.
Yes,
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes,
So we have 4 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 abstention. The minutes are approved as amended. The next item on our agenda is correspondence. So I'll address Joanne Bailey did send an email. I don't know if it was to me or I was copied, but she said that the Conservation Commission had a meeting and she shared our comments and our request, and I should probably just call it up and read it, but that they were generally amenable to that. They don't have an approved document, they haven't decided on all of those things, but they're working on it, and that they seem to be amenable to what the committee said that they wanted to see, and she'll keep us informed. Did I get anything else in there that I didn't get? Okay.
No, that's good.
I think that's it for, I mean, I have no more correspondence with Shannon over minutes and agendas, but we don't need to worry about that.
I have a correspondence for you.
Oh, okay.
Voices Against Violence sent, Dear Town of Bristol, thank you for your recent donation to Voices Against Violence. This month, we finished the new roof and repaired a leak in the bathroom ceiling at our confidential shelter. We were also able to move some shelter guests to permanent safe housing to give them a fresh start. We couldn't do our work without your generosity. With gratitude, Voices Against Violence Board of Directors. And then they're telling you to save the date for their annual ball, March 21st of 2025. So,
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any correspondence they would like to share with the committee? Okay, let's go around for comments. Usually we start with select board. Rob, anything going on with the select board that you need to share with us? Or want to share?
No, the one thing I will, well, I shouldn't say no, I guess yes. So, I believe we will finally have approval from DRA to set the tax rate on Thursday night. So, one of the things,
I hope.
You did say hope.
we are scheduled to meet on Thursday night.
Yes.
Pending DRA approval. So, hopefully we can finally get that out of the way and get the revenue coming in.
I called them twice and emailed, so we're waiting on them now.
All right, thank you, Rob. That's not budget committee, but we're all members of the community, so that's.
Sure,
thank you.
yeah,
I
so
guess
just
I'm-
wanted to throw that out there, because it does kind of affect, what we're here for today, so. Yeah, other than that, relative to the budget committee, I think that should be about it. I don't, as far as the sale of the old fire station's concerned, that's not gonna happen until next year, so we won't see that money come in until the beginning of the year. I would have loved to have had it to take and be able to possibly use some of it to offset the tax rate this year, but that's not, it's not gonna be possible, so.
Okay. Sue, did you have any comments or anything you wanted to share with the committee?
No, I have nothing, no.
Okay, Walter? No, you don't.
I've already said
You've
all I
said
can
it
say.
again, okay.
I've wasted my time.
It's not quite in the right order, but I need to go back to, I think this should not take more than 5 minutes. There is some confusion about the budget for the assessing and the land use and what the documents say and what we approved. So we've already met. We met on November 26th. We met and we approved those budgets. And if you remember, there was some confusion where Joanne would say, she put money in the budget to be able to reimburse employees for personal car use. And now we have a town car, so we don't need the money and we can take it out. And then there was some confusion about, had the money already been taken out or not? The bottom line numbers that we approved are correct, and the numbers that everyone wants. But the lines, which we said didn't need to be approved, really should have been approved. So, does that make sense?
Yep.
So Joanne said, I added $600 in, we don't need that, we can take it back down and take $600 out. And then I looked at the documents and said, well, it says that it's already at the lower number. There's some sort of system problem where somebody made a change in the system, not quite official, so the documents were not what they were supposed to say. So,
So for me,
enough rambling.
I'll just add, for me to make changes in the system, even adding revenues, I have to unlock the budget from the department head level and the select board level. And then I have to remember to lock it back up right after I'm done. I did not remember, and so the changes got made that shouldn't have gotten made until you had voted them. So I've returned those numbers to the right way, so the select board, the department and select board budget shows those numbers in it, and I've done what you agreed to do at the meeting, but I went to Paul because I was concerned that you didn't actually vote on those lines, so.
So let me do this. I think if you have a question, speak up, but I'm gonna try to get through this quickly. I'm gonna make a motion to reopen section 4411, which is land use health office. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? I gotta do a roll call. Aye?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
I'm gonna make a motion to amend line 560 of section 4411, which is memberships and training, from the current select board recommended number of $1,600 to the new number which the department head has agreed to for $1,000. So I'm reducing that number by $600. Can I get a second on that?
I'll second.
Second, so motion by Paul, first motion to reopen by Paul, seconded by Buzz. The motion to amend by Paul, seconded by Walter. So we took the $600 out in the bottom line number we approved for this section, but we didn't change the line the way we were supposed to. It's not clear whether we need to do this. We decided I decided as an abundance of caution, let's dot the i's and cross the t's and make all the changes we were supposed to make. So any discussion? Not hearing any discussion. We're going to vote on the motion to amend line 560 of section 4411 to a new, from an old number of $1,600 to a new number of $1,000. Roll call vote. Paul says aye.
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 Okay. That doesn't change the bottom line number. I don't need to reapprove the section, I don't believe, right, Christina?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. So we're now done with section 4411. I'll make a motion to reopen section 4152, which is assessing property, revaluation of property. So I want to reopen section 4152.
Seconds.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Buzz to reopen 4152. I'm making a motion to amend line 560 of section 4152, which is memberships and training, from the current approved recommended number of $1,100 to a new value of $800. Second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Paul, seconded by Buzz to amend line 560 from 1,100 to 800. Discussion? None. Roll call vote. Paul, aye.
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 Okay, there's one more line, and I'm a little confused, but
Line
I'm
140.
gonna make a motion to amend line 140. I don't remember what is what line?
It's, property overtime.
Line 140 of section 4152, which is overtime, from the current recommended amount of $500 to a new amount of $1. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Paul, seconded by Rob, to amend line 140 of section 4152 from 500 to 1. Discussion? None. All in roll call vote. Aye.
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 Okay, and again, these changes we thought were made, so it does, these line changes we just made don't change the bottom line that we approved at the last meeting, so I don't need to do that. So we are done. Thank you for that somewhat
Now,
painful.
if an accountant comes to the end.
If someone really wants to lawyer up, we now have done everything correctly. All right. Comments from the staff? Anything going on in the office we need to know about?
I have no idea.
Okay. I'll accept Rob's motion to adjourn, seconded by Walter. All in, roll call vote, aye.
Aye.
Our next meeting is next Tuesday, folks,
I will
because
not be here.
you will not be here.
That should be that.